to order. I'm going to start off with a roll call.
Delaware County, Mr. Early is excused. Ryan Hanel. Here. Matt Delameter is excused. Margaret Wilson.
Here.
Fulton County, Jennifer Elmendorf.
Sorry, my mouth was full here.
Oh, okay. Elaine, you're not a formal alternate, but you're sitting in for Jennifer. She was here earlier. Jack Farquhar. Here. Mark Van Allen is excused. Mike Tracy. Here. Joyce Malidi is excused. She threw her shoulder out yesterday, hefting, this is the truth, and she thought it would be droll if I told you, hefting the DOH resource book. That's the God's truth. Phil Malidi present. Susan Franco is excused. Gary Wicks is excused. Tom Pasquarelli. Here. Vicki Schwartz is excused. Patricia Green.
Here.
Tony Agresta.
Here.
Sid Chase.
Here.
Beth McGowan. She's here somewhere.
She is here.
Right. Dr. Markowitz.
Here.
Is here. Dana Weigand is excused. Rich Kirschman.
Here.
Ed Brand is excused. Bill Beavers.
Here.
Ed Hillenbrand.
Here.
Dr. Frank Belois is excused. Mark Zeke.
He's here as well.
He's here someplace. And Dr. Leinhardt.
Here.
And we have a quorum, sir.
All right. Everybody had a chance, hopefully, to review the meeting minutes of October 20th. So if anybody has any questions, if not, I'll take a motion to approve those.
Rich Kirschman.
Second. All in favor?
I'm sorry. Who's
Trish.
Trish.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, introduction of guests.
Yes, we have Avis Warner from the Hamilton County Nursing Service. Very welcome. Mayor Raymond and Joe Farrell from somewhere down in Albany. Jill Dunham from Gavac. Tim Foster from the Oneonta Fire Department. Welcome. Deb Cuffs from Hudson Valley and Remo and Points over there. Howard Youth. Tom Gully from the Ambulance Service of Fulton County, and Roy Sweet from the same location, Elaine Breckenridge from Nathan Latour Hospital. Welcome one and all. Did I leave anybody out? I did not do so intentionally, that's for sure. You're all very welcome indeed.
All right, correspondence.
Correspondence, everybody got a copy of it, or should have. Okay.
Chairman's report, I do not have anything this month to report.
All right.
Unfortunately.
Okey-doke. Secretary's report. Once again, I call your attention to the correspondence log in our minutes, and please consider that the information in the correspondence log should be considered part of the Secretary's report. I try to make that as detailed as reasonably possible without getting too nitpicky about it, but there's a lot of information in the correspondence log. Our yearly financial audit was conducted on October the 5th by the Bonadillo and Company, formerly known as Gruber & Scott. Copies of the report are not yet available. As soon as they are available, all members will receive an electronic copy as per our policy. We have been advised that the Ambulance Service of Fulton County began active use of the EPCR system on October 25th. You probably saw the skyrockets go up from the speculator area when I got that word. I was very happy to receive the word. They are now electronic. This is interesting because we have 29 agencies now in our region. Out of 66 total transporting agencies, we have 29 that are using electronic PCRs. Those 29 agencies are now accounting for just over 80% of the total PCRs generated by this region on a yearly basis. So we really can generate meaningful data from the EPCR agencies in our region at this time. And that will only get better. That's very good. On October 27th, we were advised of an AED used by the Walton Police Department in Delaware County. The patient was a 24-year-old female who unfortunately did not respond to the resuscitative effort. On November 15th, we received updated PAD and EPI notice of intent forms from Mike Taylor at DOH. These forms replace the previous versions, and they're now in place and available for downloading on the Forms and Applications page of our regional website. The newly updated application for regional tech number form, as previously approved by the REMAC and the Council, is also now available on our website as well. We ask now, please, that these updated forms be used. Please do not use the previously generated forms. Technically, they're no longer available on our website, but some folks might have printout copies of them. And 2 enforcement actions reported to us since our last meeting. One from a gentleman in Depew, New York. The certification was revoked, plus a civil penalty of $5,000. Another from a gentleman in Brooklyn who was suspended for a period deemed concurrent with the patient restriction status was his employer, and a civil penalty of, I believe it was $5,000. I just noticed it was cut off here. Anyway. $2,000, 1,000 suspended. And that's sort of my report.
All right. Question on the you see in the correspondence, there was an agency with an upload problem.
Oh.
Would you like Taylor about that?
Oh, yes, yeah. We have 2 agencies, 2 electronic PCR agencies in the region that are not currently uploading, that are actively electronic but not currently uploading. Fulton County Ambulance, which just began, their software provider is getting ready to do the uploads on a regular basis. And the Broad Auburn Ambulance, this is not confidential, the Broad Auburn Ambulance has had a partial upload, and they're still trying, they being the software provider, not the ambulance service itself, because it's very technical. The software provider is still trying to untangle the rest of the uploads, which are hung up in cyberspace. Lord only knows where, but they are there. Mike Taylor assures me that they are there, and they just aren't being credited to Broad Auburn.
Has anyone else, that's maybe you know, do you upload your own, or does, your image trend? We're having a problem with the state image trend base that the PCRs are uploading but not validating. So I don't know if anybody else is having those issues.
Essentially, that's what Broad Auburn is doing. They're uploading to the bridge, but they're not being credited to Broad Auburn. They're hanging up.
That's the same with us. So I'm wondering, I need to get Mike. That is the same issue that we're having, and nothing has changed on our end.
Phil, before you finish that report there, those communications regarding EMTs being penalized in some way, do you know what the infractions were?
Yes, the infractions, we list the infractions.
So it's in the communication, the handout?
Yeah, the infractions are listed in the handout, but they're listed as a violation of Part 800, the particular section of Part 800. Perhaps Joe could talk to that, could speak to that, the general violations.
They're not going to publish exactly why. That's basically confidential information. But that's just information that said, that's a generalized statement. They're always going to get, they're not going to be specific.
Okay.
But I can tell you a $5,000 fine in terms of what you get from something like that.
Right.
So Joe, without giving specifics, could you just tell us, like, at the state level, what's the top 3 reasons why EMTs get cited?
Pretty hard to say, actually. A lot of it is basically patient care issues. Falsification of documentation is another one.
Failure to do documentation.
Yeah, one.
Failure, falsification or failure to document.
So it's really, that's pretty much what it's about.
So they tend to someone and leave no trace of it?
Falsification of documentation, failing to provide PCR, that's a big one. That's probably the most common.
And how do they do that? I mean, they actually attended to somebody but didn't leave a record? Is that?
I'm sorry?
In the cases where there's no documentation, there's other knowledge that they actually attended to somebody in their capacity and didn't document it?
Right.
Okay.
All right. Treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report, a final financial report on the teaching day will be available next month, since I still have some debits against it, some transactions are not yet complete. I'll give you a little update on the teaching day in just a moment. A printed report of the cash flow and balance sheet was distributed to all the members. Our committee first received detailed cash flow balance sheets and register reports, plus copies of canceled checks as per our auditor's request, and their report is.
Everything was found to be complete and accurate.
Okay. Motion on the secretary.
All right. Motion on that secretary or treasurer's report. Motion approved. Second. Sid. All in favor? Opposed? Abstention?
I will abstain as a staff member.
Committee reports, training.
Well, I have the Regional Program Agency Committee first, if I may, for just a moment. I have to report that the file server computer in the office has crashed and is not repairable. It crashed several days ago with a smile on its face, no doubt. It had Windows 10 in it. It's an 8-year-old computer. It had Windows 10 in it, which probably was a mistake in the first place when we put that in there. But it had Windows 10, and all of a sudden it tried to spontaneously upgrade. You know these upgrades to Windows 10? Some of them are makeovers rather than upgrades. It tried to upgrade and it crashed. So I spoke with my IT guy, and he said that that's the end of it. The computer itself is about 8 years old, as I said. So I'm asking permission to purchase a new unit. It doesn't have to be ultra fancy, not at all fancy actually, just an old-fashioned non-touchscreen computer with a tower. Cost is estimated to be about $600, and the funds are available due to an anticipated surplus from the teaching day. That's one of the reasons I can't give you the final teaching day financial report. So with your permission, I'd like to purchase a new computer to use as a file server, as a backup.
I think you can do better with something like credit sensitive.
We get a motion to the purchase of new file computer.
So moved.
Second? Sid? All in favor? Opposed?
The teaching day was concluded on Saturday, October 29th. It appeared quite successful. We issued 45 certificates of attendance, 6.5 CME hours apiece. Evaluations were extremely positive. I have 3 little companions in front of me here, 3 bacteria and viruses. Dr. Leinhardt assures me that one of them is an accurate representation of what the shingle virus looks like, and I'm willing to believe it. But in any event, it was extremely positive. Deb Cuffs can comment because Deb was a very welcome addition to the presentation for the day.
It was extremely well done. There was about 45
people. Mm-hmm.
That were there. 45 very motivated, interactive people. Joyce actually put the entire training program together so it flowed nicely, and she and I kind of fed off of each other for that. 2 nurses, can you imagine? But anyway, it actually flowed off quite nicely for EMS, and was very enjoyable to do.
I thought it was a very well-planned.
Ask them about my manicure section.
So Joyce wanted me to tell everybody that she's working on the agency head guidance. If that's the right phrase or not, I'm not sure. But anyway, guidelines for the head of an EMS agency. That, of course, is where she threw her shoulder out. I'm not laughing at her shoulder being out. I'm laughing at how it happened.
Is that workers' comp?
I suppose it would be, but she, she has a bad shoulder anyway, so she's going to chill. She's going to chill. But she took it and rolled. That's the report of the training committee.
All right, transportation and standards.
Transportation and standards, this is fascinating. September 19th, we received an application for a transfer of operating authority from the Wells Volunteer Ambulance Corps that originally was part of the Wells Fire Department with a requested operating authority be transferred to the Wells Volunteer Ambulance Corps Incorporated, a newly formed not-for-profit corporation. The application was forwarded to the members of the committee with appropriate redactions, etc. We found there was a need for some minor revisions, and when it was forwarded to Mr. Clayton on October 11th, with the revisions in place, on October 12th, Mr. Jonas detailed a number of lengthy revisions that were further needed. This reply was forwarded to the members of the committee, and the original hard copy was returned to the applicant with a copy of Mr. Jones' reply. On November 15th, an electronic copy of the stenographic transcript of the Transcare TOA was received from our legal stenographers, and we sent that out to all the members, as well as Mr. Clayton. A revised copy of the Wells TOA was received in our office 2 days ago. So it will be reviewed for completeness by the committee, and we'll have a report for everybody and a copy of the revised application just as soon as we deem it complete, and hopefully it can be scheduled for a vote at the December meeting. But I haven't had a chance to go over it yet since it coincided with our getting ready for this meeting today. So that's where we stand.
All right. State Council report, I don't have anything. Mark?
I don't have anything either, but Tommy and I had a discussion earlier, and I'm going to try to make the meeting in January and do a report. report since Tom has
will be
something
in
else he
Hawaii.
has to do right away, right after the meeting, so.
I will be at the state council meeting. Unfortunately, I will not be at this meeting. I'll be thinking of you while I'm on the beach in Hawaii.
Have good thoughts.
We'll be thinking of you too.
REMAC, Dr. Leinhardt.
We approved Dr. Luz as the Esperance new agency medical director. We signed a memorandum of understanding with Mountain Lakes region, which continues the sort of joint responsibility for two agencies in the North Country, Hamilton County. And we heard about and requested of the ambulance service of Fulton County to receive a cover letter of sponsorship from Dr. Glenn regarding the SCT program that is already underway, its curriculum, and any protocols that derive from it. To have that sent to REMAC in the interim between now and next meeting, perhaps for online voting to approve that program. And the rest was informational at the meeting.
Thank you. County reports. Where do you want to start? Hamilton. Okay. All's good up there? Snow this weekend. Fulton County.
Nothing new.
Montgomery.
Nothing new.
Seago.
Nothing new.
Harry.
We do have a new
That's
EMS
cool.
coordinator in Montgomery County, Steve, started with us and attended our meeting yesterday.
And what is that, Trish?
Steve,
Seago, nothing. Harry.
Nothing to report.
Delaware. Maybe you gotta have something.
I do. We moved our 911 center from the state police barracks back to the county, so we will not be the only county that's dispatched by the state police anymore, or do our own dispatch. That's gone on since October 24th, right? So since the 24th, been some growing pain in that, obviously. Got a whole slew of dispatchers, none of them came over. One came over from the state police part-time, but the rest of the people have never dispatched 911 before. It's brand new. Everyone's trying, getting on board, moving things along with that. We had our first committee meeting for our forum that we formed to work on the EMS problem in Delaware County. And we got quite a few good ideas out of that, and we're looking to talk to other counties and see what they're doing to solve their EMS shortage problem. So that's our next step, is to try to make some meetings for other counties.
I'm a little disappointed that Delaware County moved their 911 center. I won't be able to sit in the speculator in my living room and listen to the Hancock PD talk about what calls they're responding to. The radio system was such that I was getting radio skipped right up into speculator. It was running right over our sheriff's band, as a matter of fact. But apparently that's over with now.
Hopefully.
Radio's a wonderful thing, in case you haven't realized.
Old business. I don't think we have any old business.
New business, we have Mr. Houston champing at the bit.
Yeah. New business.
Champing at the bit.
I don't know if I go that far, but trying to do due diligence. So earlier, I know a lot of the same players are here right now. At the REMAC, I explained that I sit on a small tag to the CMAC, and it's in regard to sustainability for the critical care, the EMTCC in New York State. And basically each of the members have been asked to go back to their regions and solicit input from providers and leaders in the area as to, first thing is, do we keep CCs in New York State? And then if yes or if no, then how do we adapt to that? You know, the big conversation points that came out earlier was basically if we keep CCs, there's a large amount of work that's going to need to go into rewriting a curriculum, transitioning it to education standards. And if we don't, then what mechanisms are we going to provide to make sure that there's a way for folks to bridge up to paramedic, down to AEMT, and have communities and services prepared? We're just basically looking for feedback from providers and leaders. So if you have anything and you weren't there earlier, throw it at me. Feel free to say something here or just catch up to me otherwise, but it's just about sharing ideas so that I can bring it back from the region.
I I have more accurate figures than I did this morning, considering they weren't accurate at all. I was talking off the top of my head. Somebody asked me, and I should have looked at this up before the meeting, is how many CCs do we have in our region currently? Well, I did look it up in the meantime. In our region, we have currently 295 credential providers at the ALS level. Of 208 are paramedics, 80 are CCs, and 7 are AEMTs. And of those 80 CCs, almost exactly half are associated with large volume agencies in the region, and half are not. Those are all credential providers. They're all, you know, nominally they are all active. The only way I find out if they're inactive is if their card expires and I take them out, obviously off the active list, or if I'm advised by an agency that John Jones and Mary Smith is no longer a member.
Phil, does the state database allow querying, you know, critical care number of runs or per individual, get a sense how active they are through the state database?
I don't think that the state database does, to be honest with you. I think you'd have to go to the individual PCR on an agency level, which the only way we can do that is by querying the agency itself. The state bridge, unfortunately, does not permit us to do that. It's blocked. Delivered yourself by the state. They also block themselves from that information, so you can't get to the individual PCR on the state bridge. Nobody can.
Any other comments for Howard to bring back?
I have a question for Phil. The 295, is that pretty steady number that we run?
That's
Or
the
is
highest.
it-
That's the highest it's ever been.
It's the highest
Yeah,
now?
that's the highest it has ever been. Normally it runs around 250, but it has gone up a good bit, and almost, well, actually not almost, exclusively EMTPs. There might have been one or two critical cares, but all the rest were EMTPs. The number of paramedics in the region has gone up quietly but steadily over the last 5 years. So it's just a little bit better than the other one now.
When you were in your query of the 80 CCs that work for high-volume agencies, you probably can't run a secondary to see if they volunteer with a lower or a smaller squad.
It's interesting you should say that. Of the approximately 40 that are with high-volume agencies, I'd say about 1/3 of them are also with a smaller squad, a lower volume squad. And what I call a high-volume agency is more than
Two-thirds are volunteering with smaller.
Right.
So can you look on there and see what percentage of the people that are credentialed in this region are credentialed in multiple agencies?
Sure. I can look. I can put that in the information when I post the minutes.
It would be interesting to see with the average tech, how many agencies are actually credentialed with.
What was your definition of high volume agency?
200 to 300 a month, more than that. That's just off the top of my head, really. But I can put that figure in I'll put that in the addendum to the minutes. We have a fair number of our techs, our active duty techs, that are listed with more than one agency. What the percentage is, I have to actually put on the hard numbers to tell you. I'm not really sure.
Any other feedback for Howard to take back?
Could we ask you, Howard, what kind of feedback are you getting elsewhere?
You can ask.
Well, I'm talking about polite feedback.
Honestly, I'm just trying to respect the charge of the committee, and that's really to try and keep the data that we're collecting in a one-way direction for right now, which is just putting it together, bringing it back to the committee. You know how EMS rumor mills run, and the last thing we want to hear is, we don't even have a water cooler, and we're good at it. So, yeah, it's just a matter of trying to keep most of the internal conversation exactly that until it goes to the CMAC. I'm sure, like I said, the decision-making process is really springtime, having a recommendation to the CMAC as to whether to keep or not. And then after that, it's expected that there's going to be a long process as to how to develop a transition for the state. And like I said earlier, I think the hardest part of this is truly remembering that when you're giving an opinion or when you're looking at assessing the data, it's not just assessing data or opinion for your community or your region. It is a statewide patient care issue. And the question that needs to be answered is keeping the EMTCC good for patient care for the majority of New York State? It's a tough assignment.
Actually, Howard, I had another question. Do you know how many regions don't recognize CCs? I know Hudson Valley doesn't.
I don't off the top of my head.
I'm just wondering.
Is it that they don't recognize, or
Don't recognize CCs.
I know New York City does not.
I know New York City
So
does.
they don't even credential them with a tech number?
Correct.
No.
Really? I wasn't
They're
aware.
AEMTs in the region.
Really?
They go to New York City to consider
You can get a special waiver for the transports, but it'll allow CCs for agency to have the special care transport team. They can be certified to do inter-facility transports, but they can't do 911.
Right. Yeah. I couldn't answer with a direct, solid answer. I don't know if Mary or Joe happen to know that number, but I know as a whole, it's the downstate larger regions.
So pretty much from Sullivan down.
Unless I knew Westchester and Putnam didn't allow them either.
Yeah, I think it's Westchester, Sullivan, Westchester, and the city. But again,
And then everything up allows the CCs.
and Long Island, of course.
Well, that's where it started.
As I remember, Howard and I were sort of reminiscing a little bit at lunchtime. As I recall, Long Island, Nassau County particularly, was instrumental in establishing the level of CC, critical care technician, back in the day. Back in the day, before paramedics got to be widespread, before paramedic training was widespread as it is now.
As was John Spohr in upstate New York.
Hmm?
As was John
Yes, right,
Spohr.
exactly.
Right.
So, yes, yes. Dr. Spohr was very instrumental in that. He wanted to populate the smaller agencies, get the patient care out there. But ironically now we're seeing a sort of a seismic shift a little bit. As I mentioned to Howard, for example, in southern Hamilton County, the fly car system, the county ambulance is so efficient that us local practitioners, when we are on duty, really get very little chance to practice what we have learned and are certified in. To the point where I walked into the ED with a patient this summer, Dr. Fisher looked up and said, "What the are you doing here?" I said, "Well, the bottom of the barrel, what can I tell you, the black car wasn't on." But this is not altogether a bad thing. A little inconvenient for the practitioner, maybe, it gets you a little rusty, but it's not altogether a bad thing because patient care is being maintained and being well maintained. Not every area has good fly car or ALS backup availability like we do in southern Hamilton County, but some of the areas in the region obviously do, very much so. And so there was a bit of a shift. Bit of a seismic shift.
It's probably one of the more interesting things to really have regions start looking at is not only numbers of providers, but how they're being utilized and where. So, you could flat out, like, personally, I started going, all right, well, if we shut down CCs for the state, where do we have obvious holes in coverage? Then I realized through a couple of colleagues that maybe what I thought was an obvious hole in coverage isn't one, because you have a lumped group of CCs in an agency that rely on a paramedic level agency for intercepts that cover the same CON, same area. So what's perceived as a loss may not necessarily be a loss. Or it might be if that agency doesn't have the staffing to cover the call volume. So there's a lot of digging and data mining that's going to come along with this, and I think no matter what at the end, nothing's going to fit perfectly.
Right.
But it's going to be an interesting process.
Well, as witness again that about 1/3 of the total transporting agencies in our region generate 80% of the PCRs in our region.
The other thing that's really been realized is that the AEMT level has not been publicized well enough. There are not providers out there that understand what an AEMT is capable of, nor regions that know how to successfully incorporate them into their patient care, and some that have kind of chosen not to. But then again, we still have agencies referring to themselves as EMT basics. So there's data, and that was a 2012 transition to EMT, not EMTB or D or what have you. So it's just a matter of catching up with ourselves. Well, if anybody has any other comments or thoughts or whatnot, grab me after the meeting when we turn the recorder off, or just shoot me an email.
All right. Any other new business?
Yeah, I just have one thing to announce from CMT. In our 3-county area, we're putting the last touches on, Beth was giving me the heat eye here.
I'm trying to figure out where you're going.
This is actually Beth's project. We're putting together the final touches on a bariatric ambulance on a medium-duty truck chassis. And hopefully in the next few weeks we'll get it on the road. It's almost ready, and I think Beth can talk about what's in it a little bit.
It's big. You know, it's compared to our vans, it's a very big Freightliner. Even though he says it's medium duty, it's huge to me. It's got the Stryker power load and power stretcher in it. So we had been approached by several facilities saying, can you please get bariatric capability? And we're going to have a true bariatric capability rig. So.
Nice job.
Wells has a power load also. Have you had a chance to use your, you've had calls now since you got your
Yes.
name.
Very nice, 2 fingers. You should have used it so you can.
That's wonderful. That's very, very good.
All right, any other new business? Yes.
I just like to take an opportunity, Worcester Emergency Squad got together with Howard, and we're putting together a core contact class that will be on Saturdays in January. I have a flyer here, and I'll forward it to Phil to post on the website.
Sure, I'll be glad to. Sure. Shoot it to me and I'll put it up there.
All right, anything else? Motion to adjourn. Second?
13:31.
Howard would be proud of you.
Yes.
Good job. 32 minutes.
32 minutes, that's my
December 15th.